10 players flagged, 10. Now, before you close this video thinking you already know what I'm going to say, stay with me for 30 seconds. Because the story being told in most places right now is wrong, not slightly off, wrong. The narrative is crisis, chaos, Arsenal limping into a cup quarter-final with half a squad. But when you actually sit down and separate what is confirmed from what is managed, the picture looks completely different. And here is the thing that really caught my attention when I was going through the data this week. The question Mikel Arteta is asking himself tonight is not, can we get through Southampton? His question is, how do I get through Southampton, Sporting CP and Manchester City without breaking this squad before May? Those are two very different questions, and understanding that difference changes everything about how you read tonight. Let's get into it properly. My name is Amelia. This channel is about understanding Arsenal properly. Not the reaction, not the panic, the actual football intelligence behind what is happening. If that is what you are here for, subscribe, hit the bell, because this April is going to be relentless and I will be breaking down every major moment. Right, let's go. Let me set the scene before we go anywhere near the lineup. Arsenal, top of the Premier League, 9 points clear, game in hand over City, Champions League quarter-final, Sporting CP, April 7th, 3 days after tonight. EFL Cup final, Sport lost to Manchester City, 2-0 Wembley 3 weeks ago, and tonight FA Cup quarter-final, Southampton away, 8 o'clock kickoff now, Southampton. I want you to forget for a second that they are a championship club, because I think that framing is creating a false sense of comfort. These are the facts. Southampton have not lost in 14 games. They knocked out Fulham, a Premier League side, in the previous round with a 95th minute penalty. They play with genuine intensity, they press aggressively, and their manager has them completely organised. Speaking of their manager, Tonda Eckert is 32 years old. I'll be honest, when I first looked into him before preparing this video, I was genuinely surprised by his background. He worked at Bayern Munich and RB Leipzig academies, won a UEFA Youth League with RB Salzburg's under-18s, and was assistant first-team coach at Genoa in Serie A before coming to Southampton. He came in as interim in November, won 4 of his first 5, got the permanent job by December. This is not a caretaker. This is a manager with a system, an identity, and a squad that trusts him completely. So when you hear Southampton away, do not let the championship label fool you. This requires a professional Arsenal performance, full stop. Right, so here is the central question I want to explore tonight. And I want you to keep this in the back of your mind throughout the entire video. Is Arteta treating this as a genuine cup quarter-final, or is he treating it as a structured fitness assessment ahead of Sporting CP? Because if you get that answer right, everything else about tonight makes sense. My read, it is both simultaneously. And that is actually the most intelligent piece of squad management Arteta has shown all season if he pulls it off. But it only works under one condition. The players he selects tonight have to be ready, motivated, and absolutely clear on the game plan. Because if the rotation is too aggressive, if the system becomes disjointed, if players are half fit and finding their rhythm, Southampton will punish that. We will come back to that point, because it is important. But first, let's talk about the injury picture, and I mean really talk about it, not the headline version. Okay, 10 players flagged. Let me break this down properly. Because there is a massive difference between the players who are genuinely injured and the players who are simply being protected. Confirmed out, no debate, Mikel Merino, foot fracture, surgery. He is done for weeks, possibly months. That is a genuine loss. Eberechi Eze, calf injury picked up in the Champions League against Bayer Leverkusen, out until around April 22nd. Confirmed by the club. Noni Madueke, knee injury sustained playing for England against Uruguay, left the stadium in a brace. He is not available tonight and his return date remains unclear. Piero Hincapié withdrew from Ecuador duty after imaging tests. Unknown timeline. Those 4 are out. That is confirmed. Now here is where it gets interesting. The other 6, Saka, Rice, Odegaard, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Trossard, Zubimendi, these are a different category entirely. Most of them withdrew from international duty as a precautionary measure. Arsenal's medical team made deliberate decisions to bring these players back early and manage their workload. Saka and Rice withdrew from the England camp for what was officially described as a medical assessment, not a confirmed injury. An assessment. Saliba missed France's games with a recurring ankle issue. The French Football Federation said he needed approximately 10 days rest, which means for April 4th he should be in contention. Gabriel withdrew before reporting to Brazil with knee pain. Doubtful but not ruled out, Trossard and Timber stayed in London during the break, specifically to continue their rehabilitation. Both are expected to be available tonight. And Odegaard, we are going to spend serious time on him in a moment. So the real confirmed absences heading into tonight are 4 players, not 10. The other 6 exist on a spectrum from likely available to possible to being carefully managed. That is a very different story from the crisis narrative. Here is a question I want you to sit with for a second. If this was genuinely a 10-player injury crisis, if Arsenal were truly struggling, would Arteta's training sessions this week look different from any other week? Probably not, because the players who are genuinely available are being put through their paces regardless. The ones who are doubtful are being assessed daily. The difference is how many of those doubts clear in time, and the lineup tonight will give us the answer in real time. Right, let's build the predicted. Now, before I give you the lineup, I want to be transparent. This is a prediction. Arteta has not confirmed his starting 11 at the time of this video. This is based on verified reporting from multiple credible sources combined with tactical logic. With that said, here is how I see it. In goal, Kepa Arrizabalaga. I know, after the Carabao Cup final, there will be people watching this right now shaking their heads. But Arteta has a clear-cut rotation policy and he has not broken from it once this season. He backed Kepa publicly after Wembley. Starting him tonight is not a mistake, it is a statement. It says, one error does not rewrite my structure. That is managerial authority. You might disagree with it, but it is deliberate. At right back, Ben White. With Timber still recovering from the ankle issue, White is the natural option, reliable, positionally disciplined, not the most explosive in transition, but safe and experienced. Centre-backs, Christian Mosquera alongside Ricardo Calafiori. And I want to pause here for a second, because this is the partnership that will either define tonight as a professional performance or create a nervous 90 minutes. Mosquera is 21 years old and is signed for £13 million from Valencia in the summer. And yet, whenever he has played, he has been genuinely impressive. Calm on the ball, strong in the air, reads danger well. He is not Saliba, but he is not a liability either. Calafiori alongside him gives communication and experience. His natural instinct is to step forward and carry, which is useful in attack, but requires discipline at centre-back against a team that transitions quickly. Left-back, Miles Lewis-Skelly. No debate, midfield anchor, Christian Odegaard. And this is the most important selection in the entire 11, even if it is not the most glamorous name. With Rice resting, Zubimendi unfit, and Marino out for months, Odegaard is the only genuine holding midfielder available. And for this specific fixture against a physical pressing championship side, his profile is actually ideal. He wins duels, he positions intelligently, he gives the team structure. £15 million from Brentford on nights like tonight. That signing earns its value. Above him, Havertz in the 8 role. And at 10, this is where everything depends on one name. Let's talk about Odegaard properly, because I think this is the most important individual story in this entire video. Martin Odegaard has been out since February with a knee problem, 6 weeks. Now let me tell you what 6 weeks without Odegaard actually looks like in football terms. He is not just Arsenal's captain, he is the player who connects midfield to attack, the player who breaks lines with weight of pass, who draws central defenders out of position and releases runners behind them, who links with Saka on the right side in those intricate combinations that create Arsenal's best chances. In the Carabao Cup final, Odegaard was absent. Havertz played 10. Arsenal did not score. I am not blaming Havertz for that result. City were well organised and Arsenal had other issues on the day, but the creative flatness, the inability to play through City's block, to create genuine second phase chances, that was directly connected to operating without Odegaard's movement and vision in that position. Now, multiple reliable sources report he has been pushing hard to return for tonight. He has been training, he has targeted this game as his comeback, and there is genuine optimism inside the club. But here is the question I keep coming back to. If he starts, what is the plan for his minutes? 60 Minutes says Arteta is managing him towards Sporting CP, getting competitive time into his legs, but protecting the knee from 90-minute fatigue. 90 Minutes says the knee is genuinely right and he is back. The 60-minute version is the smarter call. A player returning from a 6-week knee issue in a high-intensity game against a pressing championship side pushing for a full 90 is unnecessary risk. But here is the part that makes this genuinely complex. If Odegaard comes off at 60 and Arsenal are level or behind, Arteta has a real problem, because the impact substitution options in that midfield area are limited tonight. So there is a very specific scenario where managing Odegaard's minutes and managing the game result come into direct conflict. Watch very carefully when and if he comes off. That moment will tell you more about Arsenal's Champions League readiness than almost anything else that happens tonight, something I have been genuinely thinking about this week. If Odegaard comes on as a substitute tonight rather than starting, does that actually tell us more about his fitness than if he starts? A player returning from a serious knock, coming off the bench at 60 minutes into a game that is already won, is a very different physical test from starting cold in a high-press fixture. Arteta might deliberately choose the substitution route for that reason. Either way, keep your eyes on him from the first moment he touches the ball. Right, this is where things change, because I want to completely shift the focus for a moment. Everyone has been talking about Arsenal's absences, understandably, but there is a storyline on the Southampton side of this that has barely been mentioned anywhere. Southampton play Wrexham on Tuesday, April 7th. That is a direct playoff rival clash in the Championship, a game with enormous implications for whether Southampton finish in the top 6 this season and reach the promotion playoffs. Now think about what that means for Thonder Eckert tonight. He has a squad of Championship players who are fighting for their professional futures in the league. The FA Cup run has been brilliant, has been a genuine bonus, but if Eckert starts his first choice 11 against Arsenal and they pick up knocks or fatigue carries into Tuesday, he is gambling his entire season on a cup run. Most Championship managers will not make that gamble. My expectation is that Eckert makes 4 or 5 changes from his strongest 11 tonight. And if that is the case, the threat level at St Mary's is meaningfully reduced. But, and this is genuinely important, I want to be careful not to overstate this. Even a rotated Southampton has physical intensity. They press hard regardless of personnel. They are dangerous from set pieces, and a crowd behind them at St Mary's on a cup quarter-final night under the lights creates its own energy. Arsenal still need to play. The point is simply that the scale of the challenge tonight is likely smaller than the fixture looks on paper. And the fact that almost nobody in mainstream coverage has noted Southampton's own fixture congestion tells you something about the quality of pre-match analysis right now. Now let's go tactical, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Eckert's system is a 3-4-2-1. In that shape, when Southampton have the ball, the wing-backs push extremely high. They create width from deep, run beyond the striker, and the 2 number 10s drop into the half spaces between Arsenal's lines. Against Arsenal's 4-3-3, this creates a specific problem. Arsenal's fullbacks push forward naturally in Arteta's system. Lewis Skelly on the left, White on the right. Both are encouraged to contribute in attack, but if both fullbacks are high while Southampton's wing-backs are also forward, the transitions become dangerous territory. One misplaced pass in Arsenal's own half. Southampton win it back quickly. Their wing-backs have pace and space behind Arsenal's defensive line. This is not hypothetical. This is how Southampton hurt Fulham. Exactly this mechanism. The defensive instruction tonight will be very specific. Fullbacks maintain discipline in transition. Odegaard drops to protect the space that Rice would normally occupy. And here is the tactical detail that I think is most underappreciated tonight. Riccardo Calafiori playing centre-back. His natural game involves stepping forward aggressively, carrying the ball, initiating transitions from deep. It is brilliant when it works, but at centre-back against a side that plays quick balls over the top to their striker, stepping forward at the wrong moment creates gaps behind him. Mosquera will need to communicate constantly, organise the defensive line, and Calafiori will need to resist his natural instincts in certain moments. That partnership under pressure, in a live game, at pace, is the genuine tactical vulnerability tonight. If Eckert's analysis team has done their homework, and I suspect they have, Cyle Larin will be running directly at that gap early in the game to test it. And actually, here is something worth thinking about. Mosquera has been exceptional in composed, controlled passages of play, but how does he respond when Larin runs at him directly in the first 10 minutes? Under crowd noise, under pressure, with nothing to lose? We have not seen that version of Mosquera yet in an Arsenal shirt. Tonight might be the first time. Right, my professional verdict. My predicted 11, Kepa, White, Mosquera, Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, Norgard, Odegaard, assuming he is fit enough, and Havertz. Daumann on the right, Gyökeres through the middle, Martinelli on the left. The Gyökeres call is deliberate. I know Jesus has started every FA Cup round and there is an argument for continuity, but Gyökeres is in form, he is fit, and he is the calibre of forward who can unsettle a Championship defence in ways that do not require precise service. He creates from nothing. He holds the line. He scores from half chances. Jesus is an impact substitute late in the game. That makes football sense. But to start this fixture at this level, Gyökeres is the right call. On the result, Arsenal should win. The quality gap is significant. Even a rotated Arsenal, if organised, has too much technical quality for Southampton to contain over 90 minutes. But I want to be honest about the scenario where this gets uncomfortable. If Odegaard picks up a knock early, If Mosquera is exposed on set pieces, if Martinelli and Dauman do not track back, and Southampton's wing-backs get free runs at White and Lewis Skelly, in that scenario, this becomes genuinely tense. My prediction, Arsenal win, confidence level high, but how they win and who they lose in the process matters far more than the scoreline. Let me pull back for a moment, because I think there is something getting lost in the daily injury update cycle. Arsenal are chasing a treble, Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League. In the history of English football, only one club has ever won all three in the same season. One. And Arsenal are still alive in all three of them right now, tonight. Despite losing the Carabao Cup final, despite 10 players in the medical room, despite the most brutal April fixture schedule in the Premier League this season. And I think that tells you something profound about the depth of what Arteta has built at this club. Think about the players likely starting tonight. Mosquera, £13 million from Valencia. Dauman, academy graduate. Lewis Skelly, 18 years old. Odegaard, 15 million from Brentford. That is not a crisis squad. That is infrastructure. That is deliberate planning. It is scouting intelligence. It is a coaching structure that allows the system to function regardless of who is in it. And Christian Mosquera, if he performs well tonight in a National Television Cup quarter-final, that signing quietly becomes one of the smartest pieces of business in the Premier League this season. £13 million, quarter-final starter. That is the kind of recruitment story that gets written up in books about how clubs build properly. Here is what happens next, and I want to be specific. Arsenal win tonight, semi-final place secured, domestic double still alive, key players get meaningful fitness minutes under genuine competitive pressure, and heading into Sporting CP there is momentum. That last point is important, not just psychologically, tactically. Sporting CP will watch tonight's footage. Their analysis team will study how Arsenal set up without Rice, without their full midfield, without their first-choice defensive partnership, which means Arteta cannot simply run a predictable default system tonight. There are small tactical decisions he needs to make, press triggers, defensive shape, transition patterns that will have direct Champions League implications. This is another layer that most people will not be thinking about while watching. Now, if Arsenal struggle, or worse, lose, then the conversation shifts quickly. 2 trophy exits in 3 weeks, the squad under visible physical strain. The treble collapses to a single before April's biggest games have even arrived. That psychological momentum heading into a Champions League quarter-final, having just lost in the FA Cup, that is a real problem. Nobody wants that conversation. But the decisions at St Mary's tonight determine which of those 2 realities we wake up to on Sunday morning. I want to leave you with one thought. Because sometimes in the noise of injury lists and rotation decisions and fixture congestion, it is worth stepping back and looking at the actual picture. Arsenal have not won the league title since 2004. They have not been in a Champions League quarter-final in nearly 20 years. They have not seriously threatened a treble in living memory. And tonight, despite everything, they are still standing, still in every competition, still 9 points clear in the Premier League, still in the last 8 of the Champions League, still in the FA Cup. That is not normal. That is a club that has been rebuilt from the foundations upward, and the test now is whether they can finish what they have started. Starting tonight at St Mary's with a rotated squad under the lights in a quarter-final that nobody is giving Southampton enough credit for. Professional performances win these games, not headlines, not injury lists. Football, let's see what Arteta's side produces. Drop your predicted lineup in the comments. I want to see who you are starting tonight. If you want the Sporting CP breakdown, it is coming the moment the final whistle goes tonight. I am Amlelia. This is Amlelia Arsenal Update. Let's go.